Welcome to another edition of Hey Bobby. I'm Ray Horner, and of course, with us is Senior VP with the Cleveland Guardians, my good friend Bob DiBiasio with us at WAKR. And it was this week, if you go back to the mid-90s, I think it was 1995, that the sin tax passed in Cleveland. And it really set the stage for things to change for Cleveland baseball, from Municipal Stadium that we talked about last week into the new ballpark where they currently are, and really change the focus of the baseball team as well from the fans' point of view with what would become their brand new ballpark. But Bobby, let's go back.
The opening of Jacobs Field was 1994.
That's right.
Was our first game. This is our 30th year in that beautiful baseball-only ballpark on the southern edge of downtown Cleveland. But let's even back up a little bit to April of 1990. There was not overwhelming support for a brand new ballpark and the Cavaliers moving from Richfield to back downtown. The Gateway project, you would thought it would have, been so well received by the people of Cleveland that we're going to get a brand new ballpark and the Cavs are going to come downtown and help revitalize a real struggling aspect of downtown Cleveland, the southern edge. And in April of 1990, Commissioner Fay Vincent makes a visit to Cleveland, and I will never forget him sitting in a golf cart behind the batting cages during our batting practice. I can't remember who the visiting team was, but he sat there during our BP and the visiting BP and chatted with the media with the message that if that referendum fails, there is no guarantee that Cleveland would have a Major League Baseball team. And that sent shockwaves through a lot of people. And despite that proclamation, the referendum was something like 52 in favor and 48 against. So it wasn't, again, an overwhelming vote for, again, the Cavs moving back downtown and us getting a beautiful baseball-only ballpark. In retrospect, it's hard to imagine that people didn't think that it made sense for the community, for the both of us to move downtown and generate the kind of revenue for the city and the county that we do. It's been such a wonderful addition to all the development in that area of downtown. It was really running strong until COVID hit, and people just weren't coming back downtown to work. Those are issues we have to work through, but the number of residents, the activity, man, and when it opened in 1994, it was something special.
And Bobby, if you go back to when it opened up with the team itself, it was primed, because I remember that year before we moved into the ballpark, some young players that were poised to make that transition into the ballpark, and also as far as the talent level on the team. You think of the Bayergas and the Stanley Alomar Juniors, Nagy, all these guys were on that team. You move into the ballpark and all of a sudden baseball is just rejuvenated in Cleveland.
Oh, absolutely. I will always tell people that Sandy Alomar, Carlos Baerga, Charlie Nagy, I will be forever indebted to those three gentlemen, because anytime we asked them to do anything to help promote the fact that we were moving into a brand new baseball-only ballpark, they were there for us. January of 92, the cold storage building gets imploded, which was the last building on the Gateway site that needed to be removed so that they could begin to level it. And then around opening day-ish in 92, they started laying concrete. And so when you started to see activity on that plot of land, we wanted to make sure people understood we were building a baseball team at the same time we were building a baseball only ballpark, and that the two were on parallel paths. And that Carlos and Sandy and Charlie were going to be the key people involved in not only moving into this beautiful new building, but also creating a special ball club that for the first time in 40 years, you put together a championship caliber baseball team, which was pretty weird because all of a sudden, let's say we're on this path, and then all of a sudden 95 hits and we go to the World Series. Yeah. There was no gradual incline. And so all of a sudden the fans' expectation go from here to here. And that was a tough barometer. And then we sell out. And I always remind people to think through what was happening in the city and in our county and in the state of Ohio and in our country back in the mid-90s, because there was a convergence of 5 things that happened that created the 455 consecutive sellouts. And one of the most important, you have a brand new ballpark, a championship caliber baseball team for the first time in 40 years. You have a downtown that is going through an incredible renaissance. The Flats was riding like crazy, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the arena next door, the mid-90s, everybody had money in their pocket. The economy was riding high. And then the Browns left town. And all of a sudden there's this major fan base that doesn't know what to do with itself. And I've always said if the Cavaliers were on the winning edge instead of us, everybody would have gone there. But we were the team that provided this championship caliber, star-studded entertainment that they all ended up coming to us and selling out prior to a season. And I will say it again for the zillionth time, never before in the history of baseball did a team sell out prior to opening day. Never, ever in the history of baseball did that happen until we did it 5 years in a row. And that was a product of, we had only 2 major sports teams in our town. So there was this convergence of things that happened that created something unique that'll never, ever happen again. But it all stems from the vote, as you said, in 1990. It got to be a point, Ray, where the Tampa Tribune and the Denver Post actually put phone lines into my home and telecopier machines. Back then, there was no email or any of that sort of thing. So the only way to disseminate news is you write a news release, you put them in this telecopier machine that had a phone coupler. And
I remember.
They wanted to know immediately, those 2 cities, if the referendum failed or passed. They wanted the official release. And so my wife stayed up till 1 a.m. with me, helping me do this. I sent out the news release to the media that needed, made phone calls right away. Had 2 news releases written, one that, it failed and one that it passed. And again, Tampa and Denver thought if it failed, that one of those 2 cities were going to have our baseball team. And so we were so vitally close. That's why I'll never forget Fay Vincent sitting in that golf cart talking to the media, and the players would come over and listen to him talk as, eloquently as he was. I mean, he's just a remarkable guy. And, it opened a lot of eyes to the reality that this was something that needed to be done if we were going to have baseball. And obviously in the 30 years that we've been in that building, we've had some whole lot of fun.
Yeah, my mind and my memory goes a little bit, but I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, because you know this stuff much better than I do. I believe I was at the first game at the new ballpark, and correct me if I'm wrong. And if it wasn't the first year, it would have been the second year. It was an exhibition game against the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Correct.
And if that is indeed, I remember walking in, this leads me to my final question for you this week, as I remember walking into the ballpark and just mesmerized by the clean smell. But the other thing that grabbed me, Bobby, was the energy inside that stadium from the fans. It was unbelievable. I had never been in to a ballpark like that, spending many, many days in Municipal Stadium and many, many days at Three Rivers Stadium. Never saw that type of energy in a ballpark before. But was that the first game, that preseason game against the Pirates?
It was a Saturday afternoon, and we played the Pirates in an exhibition game to, see how our ballpark operated, not just the facility itself. How did we handle, did it handle the traffic flow, but the ushers, ticket takers, vendors, concession stands, all those things that are so vitally important to providing the total fan experience. We needed a test run. We needed a rehearsal. And the Pirates game was that. So beautiful day, sunny day. We play the Pirates. We all convene after the game and just talk through issues that we all walked the ballpark, and we all dealt with certain areas. For me, obviously, all the media areas, the TV trucks, the live shots, all the things that worked well, didn't work well, security and the food and beverage scenario. And then we had an open house free on Sunday that sadly we ended up having to cancel because it got snowed out. Because we were opening on Monday, was our home opener with President Clinton throwing out. Yeah, President Clinton throwing out the first pitch against Seattle, and Randy Johnson, throwing that no hitter, which is another whole story into itself with Bob Feller. Randy throwing a no hitter on opening day, because Bob's the only one who ever threw a no hitter on opening day at Comiskey Park. But we had an open house, and people were coming downtown, and we had it open for free. People would just walk around the building, just get a sense and taste of it. And we had to cancel that. And we're all worried that, oh my goodness, we have snow. But the weather forecast for the next day, on Monday, opening day, was sunny, but a little chilly. And it ended up being that way. And we were able to, Wayne Kirby, get that hit in extra innings to win the first game ever at Jacobs Field. But you were right. We had the dress rehearsal against the Pirates on that Saturday, a snowed out open house on Sunday, and then opening day against the Mariners on Monday, which was, I think, again, we'll go back to the referendum, which is the way we started this conversation. I will go back and tell you, I personally believe it was is the most significant moment in our franchise history. Bob Feller always had this great line that young people believe history began the day they were born. and I know that this is sort of, that statement is sort of because I'm living in that part of my life that the Jacobs Field became a reality. But if that referendum fails, we're gone. And so the building of that ballpark saved baseball in Cleveland, and I firmly believe it's the most significant moment in franchise history.
And that was this week, going back to 1990. That's this week's edition of Hey Bobby, with Senior VP of the Cleveland Guardians. Bobby DiBiasio joins us each week, takes time to join us, and it's brought to you by NECA IBEW, Bobby, we'll reconnect next week. Thanks again, my friend, for the time.
Thank you, Ray. Go Guardians.